Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy here, and today what I've got for you is the F1 2015 Spanish Grand Prix review for you guys. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into this video. And yeah, so going before the start of the weekend, McLaren brought out a new livery. To be honest, I kind of like it, to be honest. They have a black and red livery opposed to their grey and black, and a little bit of black and a little bit of red livery that they had in the first 4 races. So they came with this new livery. Apparently they said that it was 2 kilograms lighter than the old one. So yeah. So if that's the case, then that's good, because it's all in the name of shedding weight, so that's pretty good for them. Personally, I like the livery, it's alright. Apart from this like little stripe just before the nose cone, it doesn't really feel great, to be honest. It doesn't really look great on the design, but you know, most of it looks great. So yeah. And then as well, and then into practice, we saw a couple of spins going on, particularly with Fernando Alonso in the McLaren, who spun out. He spun the car. Thankfully, he was able to keep going after that, which was good. Another person who spun was Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton spun the car, going out of turn 3, he spun the car, and yeah, I believe he kept going. So yeah, good on him there. And yeah, so, and then afterwards nothing much. So yeah, so moving on into qualifying. It was a good qualifying session. A lot of people set really quick times, but the one team that weren't really up there were Force India, who really struggled this weekend. They couldn't find a solution to their problems, and as a result was out of Q1. A disappointing result for both Sergio Perez and Nico Hülkenberg. So yeah, unfortunate for them. Going into Q2, same as Q1, but in the end, the 2 McLarens were out. A little bit disappointing, to be honest, because in practice they were right up there. I think their highest was 7th, so yeah, I guess the other teams around them were just really not pushing as hard as we all thought, and as a result, I think that was their true pace. So yeah, unfortunate, but at least it's better than what they started off with at the start of the season. So yeah. And then going into Q3, we saw Nico Rosberg putting down a blistering lap time, which became the pole position time of the entire session, because Lewis Hamilton could not beat either of those, could not beat the lap with the 2 laps that he did, which meant that Nico Rosberg was on pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton. First time that Nico Rosberg was on pole position, first time that Lewis Hamilton had been beaten off to pole. Could be a sign of him starting to, could be a sign of Nico starting to get his mojo back and starting to take the fight to Lewis Hamilton that we saw last year. But this time it wasn't that. On that occasion was on the next round in Monaco. So yeah, could be a sign of that, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, Vettel was third. Good lap by him there in the Ferrari. 4th was Bottas. Good drive by Bottas, you know, especially as he's been rumoured by Ferrari. Shown positive signs of that, to be honest. Showing that he wants to be in a Ferrari seat. Didn't say through the words, to be honest, but looking at it, deserves like a shot of a front-running team. So yeah. Raikkonen struggled surprisingly, to be honest. Like, he was 6th or 7th, so unfortunate for him. And yeah, and then yeah, and also the 2 Toro Rossos. The 2 Toro Rossos on the 3rd row of the grid. They occupied the 3rd row of the grid. A fantastic lap by the 2 Toro Rossos. Both of them really showing the pace that we were all expecting when they arrived into Formula 1, particularly with Carlos Sainz Jr., especially winning the Formula Renault 3.5 championship last year. So yeah. So going into the race, it was a bad start by Lewis Hamilton, which meant that Sebastian Vettel got ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Nico Rosberg got a good start off the line, he kept the lead. We also saw a bit of argy-bargy going on in the midfield, but ultimately a good start. And then during the race, we saw something going on between the two Lotuses. Apparently, Grosjean tried to do a move on the Toro Rosso, tried to go around the outside, but got pushed off the road, and as a result, ran a little deep out of 2, which put him on the back foot going into 3. As a result, Grosjean collided quite lightly with Maldonado's Lotus. The two Lotuses collided a little bit, and as a result, a lot of people were believing that was the cause of Maldonado's rear wing. That was right. Maldonado had rear wing damage, which as a result put him into the pits so that they could fix it, and he dropped well down the field, about 17th or 18th, and then later on he retired. Not quite sure why, but yeah, he retired. So unfortunate for Maldonado, his second in a row, his second successive retirement in a row. Really need to sort this out, and yeah. And then afterwards we saw this really good battle between Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian really keeping Lewis behind for a very, very long time, and as a result really infuriated Lewis to the point that the team and Lewis decided to do an undercut on Sebastian Vettel. They got Lewis in first, and then afterwards Sebastian afterwards. And as Lewis came into the pits, there was disaster as Lewis Hamilton, as the team had problems getting the tyre on, and as a result, cost him a chance of getting second place over Sebastian Vettel there. So yeah, unfortunate for Lewis, but that's the name of the game. You know, sometimes these things can happen, and yeah, that's racing. So yeah. Later on, we saw Kimi go into the pits and really trying to do the exact same thing he did in Bahrain, but in the end it didn't really work out for him, and yeah, as a result finished in 5th place behind Valtteri Bottas. So unfortunate for the Finn, but that's racing, you know, these things can happen. So yeah, unfortunate for Kimi there. And then later on, we saw Lewis Hamilton going into the pits for his second spot. He went for a free stopper, so this was his second. He came into the pits. It was a really good stop, much better than his first pit stop. So as a result, came out in clear air and really pumped in some laps at the start of his stint. So fast, I think he was almost 2 seconds a lap quicker than Nico Rosberg, quicker than the race leader Nico Rosberg, which was absolutely insane. And yeah, as a result, got ahead of Valtteri Bottas to take 3rd place, and then afterwards was closing on Sebastian Vettel until Sebastian Vettel came into the pits, changed to the hard tyres, which then he would take to the end of the race. Yeah, changed to the hard tyres, and yeah, as a result came behind Lewis Hamilton, and then afterwards Sebastian Vettel could not do anything about Lewis Hamilton. He really just started to fade away from Lewis Hamilton, and yeah, that was pretty much it for Sebastian. He finished 46 seconds behind the race winner. So yeah, unfortunate Unfortunate, you know. I think Ferrari are going to be really kicking themselves, to be honest, because they threw away a great chance of a second place, to be honest. I mean, had they pitted after Lewis Hamilton pitted, I reckon they would have been able to get a second place. So unfortunate for them. I really think they'll be kicking themselves, and hopefully they'll improve going into Monaco, you know, and quite rightly for Monaco as well, because it'll be a track where there's not a lot of overtaking. You know, if you screw up and you're behind a car, you're behind traffic, it can really screw you over because it's so hard to overtake. So yeah, all the team have got to be careful that doesn't happen going into Monaco. So yeah, and then Fernando Alonso, who was running 13th or 14th at the time, came into the pits behind Nico Hülkenberg, who came into the pits as well. But as soon as he came into the pits, his brakes didn't work. And yeah, he went straight on through the pit box. Thankfully, the Jackman was able to get out of the way really quickly, just in time before the car violently hit him and threw him over to the side and whatnot. You know, fantastic reflexes by that Jackman, to be honest. You know, could have been a nasty injury for him there, but thankfully he moved out. He ducked under the way nice and quickly, which is fantastic to hear. So yeah, another team who had the same sort of issues as well. Not really as much as Alonso, but a little bit worse, especially to the mechanics, was the Jackman on the Lotus, as Grosjean came. I think Grosjean came into the pits, and yeah, Grosjean came into the pits, and yeah, and as he came into the pit box, he ran a bit too deep, and as a result, flung the Jackman a little bit forward, and almost injuring the Jackman there. So thankfully he was able to get away from a nasty injury like that. So yeah. And by the way, you know, the Alonso situation I was talking about a moment ago. Yeah, he retired afterwards. So yeah, unfortunate for Alonso there, but you know, a brake issue is a real big problem. It's a terminal problem. So yeah, unfortunate for Alonso there. Nothing he could have done, you know. So hopefully he'll get a better result going into Monaco. So yeah. And then going into the final stop, Lewis Hamilton came to the pits for the medium tyre. He was ahead of Rosberg at the time before he made his last pit stop. He managed to get ahead of Nico Rosberg just as Nico came into the pits for his final stop. So yeah, he was able to get ahead. But then afterwards Lewis Hamilton came into the pits for his third and final pit stop. He changed onto the medium tyres. And yeah, he pushed like crazy. He was pushing. He also managed to get ahead of Sebastian Vettel, which was good for him. And yeah, and as a result, would have his sights set on Nico Rosberg, who Lewis pushed as hard as he can. He pushed hard as he can, but unfortunately wasn't quite enough to take the win. Yeah, as a result, Nico Rosberg took the victory from Lewis Hamilton behind. Also on the last lap we saw Sainz and Kvyat making contact, and as a result Sainz kept going through the second corner and gained an advantage over Kvyat. I'm not quite sure what's going on afterwards. I'm not quite sure whether there's been a penalty applied to Sainz, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one. Personally, I think that will be a definite penalty for Sainz. You know, cut across the track. You know, as soon as you do that, as soon as you overtake a driver off the racetrack, you are supposed to give the place back to the driver who you've overtaken, and yeah, and then that's all good. Or otherwise, you'll get a penalty, which I believe will happen for Sainz. So yeah. I mean, just a clear corner cut from Sainz there. I mean, in my opinion, he should have just let Kvyat by. As soon as he did that, you know, to be honest, because that's gonna make his life a little bit more painful if he gets a penalty or not. I mean, I'll be massively surprised I'll be massively shocked if the stewards do nothing about Sainz's little corner cut excursion there, to be honest. So yeah. But yeah, coming in first was Nico Rosberg, second was Lewis Hamilton, third was Sebastian Vettel, some 48 seconds behind the race winner. Fourth was Valtteri Bottas, a good drive to keep Kimi Räikkönen behind in the closing stages of the race. Fifth, I believe, was Felipe Massa, good drive by him. No, sixth was Felipe Massa, good drive by him. And yeah, that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. It's your boy, I'm out. Peace.